Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiana, and today I'm coming to you with a story time on labor gone wrong. So, this happened in 2001. I was pregnant with my first son. I will go in for my regular checkups, prenatal appointments like any other pregnancy to get checked up. I would get my blood work. Everything seemed to be going great with the pregnancy. One visit I went in and they gave me a call back and they said that they seen some things that were wrong with the baby, that the baby might have something called spina bifida. So I went through the emotions. I was pretty upset. And then once everything settled down, I just said, okay, what do we do? So the doctor told me then that I would have to come in that following Monday to do an amniocentesis test. He said that something will pop up on the test saying it's wrong, but it may necessarily not be anything wrong. So I said, okay. So this happened that Friday before I was scheduled to go in to get my amniocentesis. I kept feeling a lot of pain, a lot of cramps. I was 24 weeks at the time, 6 months, and I went to the bathroom and something called my mucus plug had came out. So at this point, I didn't know what it was, so I called my doctor and he said, okay, well, you need to come in. I called my mom. She wasn't around. I couldn't reach anyone. So I called my grandparents and they came and picked me up to take me to the hospital. At that point, I was hooked up to the monitor. I got an IV for dehydration, and they told me that I was in the beginning stages of preterm labor. So they gave me magnesium sulfate to stop the contractions. So of course they kept me overnight to observe me, and it was like, okay, is everything okay? The next morning they said my contractions had stopped, that I need to go home, get some rest, stay on bed rest, do not do anything that I didn't have to do unless I had to use a bathroom or get anything to eat. So that's what I did. I went home. I was on bed rest. This was Saturday at this time. Later on that evening, I started feeling the cramps again. Remind you, when I left the hospital that morning, I still felt some cramps, but they told me that this was normal. So later on that evening, I started feeling the cramps more frequently. So I told my mom. She called the hospital. The nurse was she basically didn't worry about what was going on. It was like, oh, well, that's going to happen because she was in the hospital for preterm labor. Just make sure she drinks plenty of water. Make sure she lie on her left side. If she feels any pain, to sit in a warm bath. Um, at this time, I was only 16, so I didn't know much about labor, the signs of labor. I didn't know that when women go into labor, a lot of times they sit in a warm bath to help reduce the pain. This helps with labor. I didn't know this. So I did everything they told me to do. I laid back down. Around about 7, 8 o'clock that night, I got up, I had to use the bathroom, and I felt a lot of pressure, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? So I went to use the bathroom. Once I got up from the toilet, I noticed in the toilet that it was a pool full of blood. So as I got up, the blood is dripping everywhere on the floor. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I scream out and I call my mom, and she comes running into the bathroom, and she see at this point the blood everywhere. So she's scared. She doesn't know what to do. So she calls the ambulance. The dispatcher is like, okay, well, have her lay on the floor and take her pants off. That way you can see if anything is going on. Do you see anything? So my mom, at this point, she's running around like a mad woman, like, oh God, I have to take her pants off. I have to look down there. I don't know what I'm looking for. I haven't seen my child without pants since she was a small baby. So this, at this point, is like, oh God, what do I do? So eventually we got it to the point where she was able to take my pants off. And she's like, oh my God, I see hair. So the dispatcher let her know that's the baby crowning. So at this time, my little brother was home. And this is where it got funny. I'm in pain, but it's like he's in the kitchen. And he comes running out and he has on oven mitts. And he's like, okay, I'm ready, Tiana. I'm going to help you. So he put on oven mitts to basically hold my hand. I don't know what he thought he was doing. He was about 10 or 11 at this time. So, of course, he didn't know. So the EMTs, they finally got there. They put me on a stretcher. Of course, I still didn't have on any pants. And at this time, my brother's friend was there. And He's looking like, what's going on? As they wheel me out into the living room, the baby's head by this time is still coming out. And he kind of looks like, oh my God, it's something coming out of her, and I felt bad because it's like, he's a little boy. He's never seen this before. This is probably the first time he's ever seen a woman naked, and he has to see a baby coming out of it. So I'm sure he was traumatized for life. So they got me into the ambulance. I let them know that I had been to the hospital yesterday. They sent me home this morning. They told me that it was okay. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we're not going to take you to the hospital. So they drove to the next hospital that was in town. And as they're taking me out of the ambulance, we're racing down the halls because they're trying to get me to labor and delivery as fast as possible. As they're racing me down the halls, you can see the pool of blood just spilling everywhere behind me. So they get me into a room and my mom comes in. She starts to talk, but it's like she's in and out of it and she passes out. And it's like, oh God, I have to do this by myself. Like, what am I going to do? So they take her to the emergency room and I'm in the room by myself. The doctor is telling me to push. The baby's not coming out. So she turns around and she's like, okay, hold on, stop pushing. I don't want you to tear. I'm going to have to cut you. At this point, anybody that knows me knows I'm afraid of needles. I'm afraid of anything sharp. And it was like, cut me? No, you're not going to cut me. So she turns around to get the scalpel, and as she turns back around, I've already pushed the baby, basically already pushed him almost out. And she's just like, oh my God, I told you not to push, but thank God I didn't tear. So I pushed him out. He let out a small cry. As I told you, I was only 24 weeks, 6 months. So it's like, he's very, very small. And I pick him up and the nurses are everywhere. They take him. They're working on him inside the room. They have him in an incubator. They're putting IVs everywhere in his head, his foot. They're putting breathing tubes in him. And then about 10 minutes later, like, okay, we're going to take him to the intensive care unit. We got to be honest with you. We're not sure if he's going to make it because you're so early, but we're going to try to do everything we can. But needless to say, about 2 hours later, he went into cardiac arrest and he did not survive. But they were able to bring him to me so that I can see him. And I was basically the only one that held him while he was alive because I pushed him out and I picked him up myself before they took him to work on him. So it was pretty hectic that day. And by the time Dad got to the hospital, because we couldn't get in touch with him, we couldn't reach him. So by the time he got to the hospital, he had already passed away. So it was hectic. It was sad. We didn't know what to do. And so, but that was how I delivered my son. Basically, I almost delivered him at home on the floor with my little brother, his friend, my little sister, my mom. They were all there trying to assist me, but gratefully I got to the hospital in time. But unfortunately, my son did not make it. That was my first baby boy, and it was a sad situation, but I do now have a 8-year-old baby boy, and I have a 5-year-old nephew, so I still have my baby boys here. My nephew is actually named after my son, but this was my labor and delivery story for my first birth, and it was so crazy. But again, if you would like any more story times from me, let me know. Subscribe, like my video, comment. Let me know anything else. I have a lot of stories that I can share. And thanks guys for watching. Goodbye.